In our last session, we spoke about custom skills. This is where we'll be spending the majority of our time in the series. However, I do want to at least inform you about the other capabilities that you as an Alexa developer have. The Alexa API offers various different categories that you can develop skills within, and namely they are custom skills, smart home skills, video skills, and flash briefing skills. So let's take a closer look at smart home skills. Internet of Things, commonly referred to as IoT, is a movement within IT that is affecting the way we live. It gives devices online capabilities. You may refer to these different types of devices as things or a thing, which in my opinion just means an online enabled device. So when you hear the term IoT, that's essentially what we're talking about. Devices that are able to communicate through the internet with each other. And interestingly enough, Alexa is very much a thing. She is capable of communicating to other devices through web services and APIs. So what are some examples of IoT? Well, I've already mentioned the lights, but there are a number of others. For example, door locks, TVs, cameras, thermostats, and fans, and even microwaves. Most devices communicate in lower level languages, and typically that might be an assembly language, for example, that is represented in terms of a manufacturer and certain signals and codes that is used to communicate to that particular device. Now, this is a very complex topic, and there's a whole world to discuss when it comes to the differences between interfacing with high-level APIs versus devices which only understand certain signals. But basically, it comes down to this. When we interface with these devices, we need to communicate to them in a language they understand. That exchange of information typically happens through a transformation that typically occurs in the backend layer or backend API. The great news is that Alexa already has a category that is focused on communicating with these things, and this is the purpose and point of the smart home category. As you can imagine, communicating to devices is very different than communicating to typical online devices like phones, tablets, or computers that are powered by powerful processes and have plenty of memory in comparison to typical devices. Smart home skills provide a simple way for you to enable Alexa voice-first experiences to control and check the status of internet-ready cloud-connected devices. With smart home skills, the interaction model is defined and handled for you. She interprets customer utterances and sends messages to your skill that communicate these requests, just like the skills workflow we previously discussed. And in addition, this skill category API enables you to display up-to-date status of configured devices in the Alexa app. In order for devices to communicate with Alexa properly, they typically need to be linked to your account. Once this occurs, she will discover the device and be able to communicate with it. This is assuming that the category of skills supports interfacing with this type of device. Once the device is linked, you will be able to perform the following. Alexa, turn the bathroom light on. Or a customer is also able to turn the light off through the Alexa app. Once Alexa recognizes your intent or recognizes your intent to change a setting, she will carry out the request. Smart home skills typically make this possible by using what are called directives. These directives contain useful information and are sent as a message to the device or backend, which is then interpreted and sent properly. Directives, which are messages, can contain metadata related to the account, such as authentication, a unique identifier for the connected device, or the new setting or value. In other words, they represent and contain all the information necessary to communicate with devices so that when the device receives the signal or setting, it is able to make the appropriate action and set it accordingly. The unique identifier also helps in routing this message to the specific device. Think about it. You'd need to know specifically which device in which household is able to receive a message, because obviously we won't want to be setting other people's appliances. The security information is actually what ensures that the message that we're sending to is trusted and granted and able to carry out that particular request. So using the smart home skill category, Alexa knows that when she has this particular directive, that she should send it to, say, a light control. To approach developing these types of skills, you will need to develop code to receive and parse the messages in Lambda. And you also need to develop code that responds with a message called an event and indicate that the message was carried out successfully or not. The question you might ask yourself when you're getting started with this is, what capabilities does the API provide? Well, the Smart Home skill category is broken down into 4 broad areas. The first is the Device API, which gives the capability to interface with a device's functionality. It basically is a device endpoint that implements the combination of capabilities that best fits the models and its corresponding features. The other thing is the way that that information is exchanged. It can be exchanged asynchronously or synchronously. And essentially what that means is that a message will wait for a response, or it will, as they say, fire and forget, which basically means it sends a message and totally forgets it and continues working through whatever process it's going through. Device state change notification is essentially a way for Amazon to provide proactive state updates to Alexa when an event message has occurred. And then it also provides a querying capability which interfaces with defined properties that Alexa can use to check the status of a device. So as you can see, when you develop a smart home skill, you can change the setting of a device, send and receive messages from or about the status of that device, and you can also leverage this information for analytics and also detecting the state change of that device. So if you think about your thermostat, for example, you can probably set it to a particular value if it's an IoT device, and it would be monitoring what temperature you would like to set it over time and time again. So after a long session or a number of different various sessions, your analytics could start telling you what specifically you prefer as a setting. If the IoT device is smart or becomes smart and uses this data as it does over time, it will start detecting typically what is your preferred temperature of that thermostat. And it may even go ahead and set the thermostat to that temperature that you typically prefer. This is the power of using the analytics, also by understanding when you turn on your thermostat, when you use it, when you don't. It would begin incorporating all of these metrics into your typical daily usage, and it could even start suggesting these optimizations for you. So this is really where the power of IoT comes into play. In addition to what we've already pretty much mentioned in the previous slides, you are also able to communicate with smart home devices using broadly applicable primitives. And essentially, it can get pretty complex, but the good news is that the Alexa site actually provides various guides for dealing with each of these different types of directives. So there are directives for lights, light switches and bulbs, door locks, entertainment devices like smart TVs, smart home cameras, thermostats and fans, and microwaves. You can get all of these and find these guides in this resources or in the comments below. I've included the links directly to those particular guides to give you some more information. So take a look at those and check it out. Alright, so we're pretty much over that 5-minute mark, so I'm going to go ahead and break this up into multiple sections. In the next video, we'll talk about video skills.